Chapter 728. Amazing 3. Even Yin Shu and Xiongfeng were surprised by Master Du's reply. How big is this Yi Chun? Perfected Xianshun was filled with astonishment. May I know what's the relation between you and this brother Yi? We are good friends in spite of the age difference, Master Du said with a laugh. Previously, when Yi Qingtang came to the Bliss Forging workshop to find him, she had already made it clear that she wished to be a disciple of Falling Sky Valley's perfected Xianshun. Master Du wanted to collaborate with Yi Qingtang, and now that he knew Yi Qingtang needed help, he would support her fully. Good friends in spite of the age difference. The surprise in perfected Zuanshan's eyes deepened as he looked at Yi Qingtang, who smiled sweetly. I've troubled you to make this trip, Master Du, Yi Qingtang said with a smile. It's just you. If it's others, I would be too lazy to move an inch. Although Master Du was aloof, he was rather polite to Yi Qingtang, the person he wanted to collaborate with. He was still waiting to collaborate with this fellow and thus spoke well of him. Yi Qingtang was at a loss of whether to laugh or cry, but Master Du's words did boost her face. Yin Shu was utterly dumbfounded. He previously thought that this Yi Chun was merely making big talk, and that it was simply impossible for him to request for Master Du's appearance successfully. Yet, unexpectedly, it was a big slap in his face. Not only did Master Du come, but his words also implied that he had a good relationship with Yi Qingtang. This made Yin Shu, who experienced countless cold shoulder treatments, extremely shocked. What exactly is this Yi Chen's background? He said he was inviting Master Du over and really did so. It must be known that even his master could not invite this Master Du over. What kind of sword do you wish to make? Master Du immediately looked at perfected Xianshun. Perfected Zuanshan's heart leaped a beat, and he handed Master Du a sketch that he had prepared a long time ago. After taking a look, Master Du said the sword is pretty good. However, if you wish to make this sword, the materials used cannot be ordinary ones. Otherwise, even if it is made, it will just be a useless piece of metal that is pleasant to the eye. Perfected Xianshun was not in a hurry to speak and merely cast a look at Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang smiled. If my master needs it, I will offer the Millennium Meteoric Iron to forge this sword. Perfected Xianshun thought of the promise he made to Yi Qingtang that he said casually so that she could retreat in face of difficulties. Yet, unexpectedly, it actually came true. A gentleman never went back on his promise. Perfected Xianshun sighed lightly and looked at Master Du. Master Du, what if the Millennium Meteoric Iron is used to forge this weapon? That would be the best. If Millennium Meteoric Iron is used, its effects would be amplified fully. Master Du knew that Yi Qingtang wanted to be apprenticed to Perfected Xianshun and knew that she had the Millennium Meteoric Iron. Perfected Xianshun nodded slightly and met with Yi Qingtang's eyes. Yi Chun, here, from today on, you are my disciple. Perfected Xianshun slowly said what Yi Qingtang had been waiting to hear for a long time. Smiles filled Yi Qingtang's eyes. She heard this sentence in her previous life as well, and it was so reminiscing to hear again today. I pay respects to Master. Yi Qingtang immediately knelt on one knee and bowed to Perfected Xianshun. Falling Sky Valley, she is back. Master, she is back. Chapter 729. Senior and Junior Brothers. 1. Perfected Xianshun nodded and asked Yin Shu to bring Yi Qingtang around in the valley. He would discuss the details of the sword with Master. Yin Shu then brought Yi Qingtang out of the hall. The Valley Master presides over the Falling Sky Valley. Under the Valley Master, there are 12 Peak Masters who are in charge of the 12 peaks. Our Master was Admirable Sky, Peak's Peak Master previously. He took over the duty as the Valley Master temporarily as the old Valley Master was sick. Yin Shu led Yi Qingtang to her living place and explained on the way there. Since Perfected Xianshun took Yi Chen in as his disciple, she would be Yin Shu's junior brother. Though Yin Shu was not very pleased by that, he would still carry out his duties according to his master's command. This is where we stay. Settle down first, and I will lead you around the valley later to be familiar with the surroundings here. Your spirit animals. It's better if you ask them to stay in the room. Yin Shu's sight landed on the two figures behind Yi Qingtang. "Thank you, senior brother Yin." Yi Qingtang nodded and said. Yin Shu took a glimpse at Yi Qingtang. His eyesight was complex. Honestly speaking, he did not recognize her ability. She was not qualified to be his master's disciple, as she only possessed the yellow spirit root. However, Yi Qingtang had the Millennium Meteoric Iron and was friends with Master Du, a ranger stuff for a while. "They'll wait for you outside," Yin Shu said. Yi Qingtang nodded and walked into her room. The arrangement of the runes of Falling Sky Valley disciples was about the same. Yi Qingtang felt emotional towards the things that were familiar to her. Yin Shu stood outside the door and waited. Two disciples walked towards him after a while. "Yin Shu, how come you are here? Aren't you supposed to be with Master now?" The tall and arrogant young man smiled and asked. Yin Shu felt a headache when he saw the person. "Senior brother Qian." The young man named Qianzai. He was also perfected Zuanshan's disciple. He was very talented, but his personality was not something to be flattered. He caused trouble everywhere, and it would not be an exaggeration to call him a tyrant. Though Qianzai was slightly younger than Yin Shu, he apprenticed earlier. As a result, Yin Shu had to address him as senior brother. "I thought that you were always the most obedient person. How come you sneaked out today?" Qianzai smiled and looked at Yin Shu. "Master just took in a new disciple. I'm here to introduce him to the valley," Yin Shu said expressionlessly. Qianzai lifted his eyebrows slightly. The person standing beside Qianzai was Ji Xuan. He was slightly curious after hearing Yin Shu's words. "Master had a new disciple?" "Yes." Yin Shu nodded. As the three of them were chatting, the door behind Yin Shu was opened. Yi Qingtang walked out of the room. She saw Qianzai and Ji Xuan outside once she raised her head. "This is my new little junior brother then? Such a pretty face." Qianzai sized up Yi Qingtang. "Junior brother Qian." Ji Xuan frowned. Qianzai shrugged his shoulders. Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with smiles as she stared at Qianzai. She had met Ji Xuan before at the formidable Heavens Dynasty. As for Qianzai, he was really her acquaintance in her previous life. Chapter 730, Senior and Junior Brothers, 2. If Feng Moli of the Xianling sect could be called as the tyrant, Qianzai would be the devil in the Falling Sky Valley. When Yi Qingtang just entered the Falling Sky Valley in her previous life, she suffered under Qianzai. She always wanted to make a detour whenever she saw Qianzai. However, the senior brother who always bullied her in the past was the one who stood up for her and shielded her against everything. "Yi-chun, this is Qianzai, senior brother Qian. This is Ji Xuan, senior brother Ji." Yi-chun introduced expressionlessly. "Senior brother Qian, senior brother Ji," Yi Qingtang said. The two of them nodded. "Senior brothers, if you do not have other matters, they'll show junior brother around. Go ahead. I need to take a nap." Qianzai yawned and waved his hand. Yin Shu then led Yi Qingtang out. Ji Xuan was about to leave with Qianzai after they left. Qianzai stared at Yi Qingtang's figure and smiled. "Senior brother Ji, I heard something interesting on my way here just now, and that is related to our new junior brother. Are you interested?" "No interest." Ji Xuan did not care about that at all. Qianzai murmured to himself. "Our master has not taken in any disciple for a long time. I heard from a disciple who followed Warden Xiong that the reason why junior brother Yi could be apprenticed was not due to her talent, but she invited Master due to forge a sword from Master with the Millennium Meteoric Iron." Ji Xuan was slightly stunned. As perfected Zuanshan's disciple, how could they not know their master's preferences? "I think junior brother Yi only possesses a yellow spirit root. This is interesting. If the information leaks to other peaks, there will be much more trouble," Qianzai said enthusiastically. Ji Xuan frowned. Ever since perfected Xianxun took over the position as the Valley Master, the situations in the peaks were more complicated. If that was true, Qianzai was not interested to say anything else. He yawned and wandered back to his room. On the other hand, Yin Shu led Yi Qingtang around in the Falling Sky Valley. The Falling Sky Valley was huge. It would take more than a day to go to every corner. Normal peak disciples will cultivate in their respective peaks. If they have some missions that require them to go out, Yin Shu said expressionlessly. Though he mentioned everything, his tone was warm and his face was serious. Yi Qingtang was not bothered by that. She just listened quietly to Yin Shu explaining everything about the Falling Sky Valley. Yi Qingtang's knowledge towards the Falling Sky Valley was scarcer than Yin Shu. Yi Qingtang was familiar with everything she saw on the way. When Yin Shu was about to lead her to the Martial Cultivation Hall, he suddenly heard quarreling sounds. Yin Shu stopped and looked towards the direction of the sound. There was a group of Falling Sky Valley disciples gathered not far away. Unpleasant quarreling sounds could be heard faintly in the crowd. "Senior brother Yin, what's going on?" Yi Qingtang asked. "Let's take a look first." Yin Shu frowned slightly. The two of them then walked towards the origin of the sounds. There was a skinny, pale young man standing in the crowd of disciples. Chapter 731. Senior and Junior Brothers. 3. Sheng Qianyu, show me the proof that the white sage is yours. There were a few tall teenagers who stood in front of the young man. They stared at the pale young man arrogantly. Sheng Qianyu held his fist tightly and said, "The white sage was mine. I found it at the Sea Moon Bay." "What a joke. We got the white sage at the Sea Moon Bay on a mission. How come it becomes yours now? What? Is it because you belong to the Admirable Sky Peak and your Peak Master now takes over the position as the Valley Master temporarily, so you can say anything you want?" The few teenagers smiled coldly. Sheng Qianyu raged, and his body trembled. He pointed at the teenagers and said, "Don't you dare to defile the Valley Master. How is this related to him? The white sage belonged to me. You took it over before you returned to the valley." Yi Qingtang and Yin Shu walked into the crowd and heard them quarreling. Sheng Qianyu was a normal disciple of Admirable Sky Peak. He got a white sage by chance when he was out a few days ago at the Sea Moon Bay. However, just when he picked up the white sage, he ran into the disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak. The few disciples noticed that Sheng Qianyu was alone. The white sage was a rare find, and they then asked to take a look. Sheng Qianyu did not contemplate, as they were both the Falling Sky Valley disciples. However, the moment they got their hands on the white sage, they ran away with it. Now, all of them were back to the Falling Sky Valley. Sheng Qianyu rushed over to ask for it back. However, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples did not admit that at all. They claimed that they found the white sage and that it was totally not related to Sheng Qianyu. The senior brothers of the Blue Cloud Peak are reasonable. "Sheng Qianyu, you said that the white sage is yours? How did it end up in their hands when it's yours? Are you trying to fabricate a charge against them, as you want the precious white sage to yourself?" One of the disciples from the other peak in the audience smiled and stared at Sheng Qianyu, whose face was pale. "I gave it to them as they want to take a look," Sheng Qianyu explained in a hurry. However, no one cared about his explanation. Everyone looked at him sneeringly. Yi Qingtang witnessed the whole thing coldly and sneered in her heart. She met Sheng Qianyu in her previous life. He was talented but very weak. She really believed that the white sage was fooled over by the people from the Blue Cloud Peak. Based on Sheng Qianyu's temper, he could never lie to others. If such things happened under other peaks, the wardens of the respective peaks would be invited over for justice. However, it happened to an Admirable Sky Peak disciple, and the situation was different now. After the perfected Xianxun took over the position as the Valley Master, he noticed other Peak Masters' discontentment. In order to meet the old Valley Master's expectations and maintain the harmony in the valley, he warned all disciples of the Admirable Sky Peak to prevent trouble. If they had any conflicts with other peaks, they had to forbear with them. That was the reason why disciples of other peaks dared to create trouble under their Peak Master's hints. It was a norm to bully disciples of the Admirable Sky Peak. Chapter 732. If this can be endured, what else cannot be? 1. Yin Shu's face was not very pleasant as well. Suddenly, a pretty and skinny figure walked towards Yin Shu. "Senior brother Yin." Yin Shu looked towards the direction where the sound came from. Junior sister Yin. The girl, Yin Qingluo, was also perfected Zuanshan's disciple. People of the Blue Cloud Peak are really too extreme. Inqing Luo frowned and said. She had witnessed the incident for a while. If not for her master warning them that they could not find any trouble, she would definitely beat those disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak. Yanshu did not say anything, but his face clouded. Inqing Luo then noticed that there was a handsome young man standing beside Yanshu. She was shocked by the young man's appearance, but she frowned after a while. Senior brother Yan, is this our master's new disciple? Yanshu knew that Inqing Luo was asking about Yi Qingtang. He nodded and said yes. He is Yi Chun, senior sisterine. Yi Qingtang folded her hands and said. Yi Qingtang knew Inqing Luo in her previous life. She was not kind at all despite her skinny features. Inqing Luo stared at Yi Qingtang. Her sight was not warm at all. She nodded perfunctorily and said towards Yanshu, the rumor is true then. What rumor? Yanshu was confused. Before I came here, I just heard from other disciples that Master made an exception and took in a new disciple with a yellow spirit root. I thought that it was nonsense, however, now it seems that it's true. She was trying to be implicit. However, she knew that the new disciple got in through the back door. Yanshu pursed his lips, but did not say anything. Inqing Luo did not continue, but her eyes that were staring at Yi Qingtang were filled with unpleasantness. Perfected Zhuanshan's disciples all possessed, at minimum, green spirit roots. Now, there was a new disciple with a yellow spirit root, and he was not apprenticed by his ability. No one could treat him as their true senior or junior brother. Yi Qingtang noticed Inqing Luo's unpleasant sight, but she did not say anything. She figured that the news of her being accepted by exception was spread out by Xiongfeng, who could not keep any secret. She might not be able to enter the eyes of the admirable sky peaks, not mentioning the other peaks. However, she did not care about that. She still had a long time here. When Inqing Luo was chatting with Yanshu, Shang Qianyu's face was getting paler as he was challenged by the Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Inqing Luo was a straightforward person. She could not tolerate it anymore when she saw her junior brother of the same peak being bullied by others. Yanshu noticed Inqing Luo's move and said softly, "Don't create any trouble." Yanshu was angry in his heart, but he could not do anything based on his master's warning. "I know what I'm doing." Inqing Luo nodded and walked out. Senior brothers of the Blue Cloud Peak, junior brother Sheng, is always an innocent person. He will never frame anyone for anything. The disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak looked towards Inqing Luo as she walked out. "Your words are funny, junior sisterine. If Shang Qinyu was saying the truth, you're saying that we're wrong? And we really took his thing by force?" The disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak sneered. "Senior sisterine." Shang Qinyu stared at Inqing Luo nervously as she was the only one who was willing to speak for him. Chapter 733. If this can be endured, what else cannot be? 2. The other disciple of the Admirable Sky Peak in the audience sighed in relief after seeing Inqing Luo stepped out. Inqing Luo glanced at Shang Qinyu and signaled him to stay quiet. She then looked towards the disciples of the Blue Cloud Peak and said, "I did not say that. I'm just saying the truth here. Junior sisterine, you speak so confidently now that you have become the village master's disciple. You were not at the Sea Moon Bay. How would you know that Shang Qinyu is right? I think that you're just trying to defend your own Admirable Sky Peak's disciple." Inqing Luo frowned slightly. Though she was mentally prepared, these Blue Cloud Peak disciples were not kind at all. The white sage belongs to the person who holds it now. The Blue Cloud Peak disciple sneered. "Junior sisterine, if you think it's not right, please invite the warden over." Inqing Luo's face darkened. The level of the incident would increase if she had to invite the warden over. Furthermore, it disobeyed her master's warning. "Since you can't make your mind as well, leave now." The Blue Cloud Peak disciples were about to turn and leave. Shang Qinyu was anxious at the moment. The white sage was very important to him. If these people left, they might eat the white sage. Even if he found the warden tomorrow, there would be no proof. "Stop!" Shang Qinyu rushed over impatiently. Inxing Luo did not expect that Shang Qinyu would be so impulsive, and she did not have time to react. Shang Qinyu rushed towards the Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Shang Qinyu grabbed the first Blue Cloud Peak disciple and intended to take the white sage. "How dare you snatch it?" A cold smile flashed across the Blue Cloud Peak disciple's eyes as he saw Shang Qinyu going to snatch the white sage by force. He lifted his leg and kicked towards Shang Qianyu's stomach. Shang Qinyu had just apprenticed at the Falling Sky Valley for a year. His cultivation was incomparable to that of the Blue Cloud Peak disciples. He was kicked, and he collapsed onto the ground. Junior brother Shang, Inxing Luo, was shocked. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples kicked Shang Qinyu again. "What do you want?" Inxing Luo shouted coldly and wanted to take some action. "Junior sister In, you also saw that he came to me first." "What? You can do anything you want just because your perfected Xianxin becomes the Valley Master?" One of the Blue Cloud Peak disciples scoffed. Inxing Luo stopped and stared at those disciples. She could literally rip their skin off now. Shang Qinyu just pulled them, and they dared to beat him like that. Give me back the white sage." Shang Qinyu covered his stomach and stood up. "Shang Qinyu, don't seek your own death here," the disciples warned fiercely. Shang Qinyu did not seem to hear their words and dashed towards him again. "How dare you!" The Blue Cloud Peak disciple immediately smashed his fist towards Shang Qianyu's head. Inxing Luo was shocked. She wanted to stop that, but it was too late. The Blue Cloud Peak disciple's fist smashed down. Shang Qianyu's heart trembled. However, before the fist landed on his head, it was grabbed tightly by a small, white hand. Before the Blue Cloud Peak disciple could react, he was kicked out instantly. Chapter 734. If this can be endured, what else cannot be? This kick directly kicked everyone out of their senses. Shang Qinyu was shocked to see a pretty young man standing before him. The Blue Cloud Peak disciple who was flung away rose hastily and glared at Yi Qingtang, who was defending Shang Qinyu behind her. No one expected Yi Qingtang to strike suddenly, and even Yin Shu, who was standing beside her before this, was stunned. When did she attack? Why did he not feel a thing? "Who are you?" The Blue Cloud Peak disciples immediately glared at the pretty young man who appeared from nowhere when they saw their fellow disciple being beaten up. A sneer hung on Yi Qingtang's lips as she looked at the violent Blue Cloud Peak disciples, not bothering to respond to them. She immediately stretched her hand out and picked up the white sage that the Blue Cloud Peak disciple dropped on the floor. "A while ago, you all said that the white sage belongs to whoever has his hands on it. Now, it's in my hands, and it belongs to me already. Damn brat, you have a death wish." The Blue Cloud Peak disciples' expressions darkened, and they immediately charged towards Yi Qingtang. A trace of coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. Raising a leg, her elegant frame sent a flying kick at those Blue Cloud Peak disciples who pounced on her. Those disciples could not even see Qingtang's actions clearly and were directly sent flying away after being kicked on their heads by Yi Qingtang. In just the blink of an eye, those Blue Cloud Peak disciples crashed on the ground heavily. In the entire process, Yi Qingtang was as fast as lightning, and even the surrounding disciples did not react in time. King Luo's eyes were filled with astonishment as she looked at Yi Qingtang, who suddenly attacked. In reality, the skills of those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were not considered high, and she could easily defeat them as well if she attacked. However, she did not dare to attack because of her master. Even if she was infuriated, she could only endure it. Yet, unexpectedly, this young man who just became her master's disciple would actually be so decisive and did what she did not have the courage to do. Yin Shu was taken aback as well. He looked at Yi Qingtang in surprise, and the despise he held for her in his eyes reduced. "Your white sage." Yi Qingtang stuffed the white sage to the dazed Shang Qinyu without hesitation. Shang Qinyu looked down at the white sage in his hands that he regained, and then looked at Yi Qingtang, who stood before him agitatedly. Thank you. Thank you." The white sage was extremely important to him, and he could not lose it. Yi Qingtang chuckled. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples behind her had already crawled up from the ground. "Brat, who exactly are you? Report your name if you have the guts." The Blue Cloud Peak disciples suffered, even though they did not wish to admit it. This fellow was too fast, and they could not even see it clearly. However, this fellow looked very foreign, and they did not know which peak this fellow was a disciple from. Looking at him, it did not seem like he was in the valley as a guest. Yi Chun, disciple of perfected Xianxin. Yi Qingtang looked at those Blue Cloud Peak disciples coldly. "You're a perfected Zhuanshan's disciple." Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were evidently taken aback. They recognized all of perfected Zhuanshan's disciples, but had never seen this fellow before. Chapter 735, Who Still Refuses to Accept This? 1. He is Yi Chun, that fellow who got in through the back door. Discussions erupted in the crowd, and it was clear that the news from Xiongfeng had already circulated in Falling Sky Valley. Some admirable Sky Peak disciples were dumbfounded. Just a while ago, they heard from somewhere that a person was accepted as perfected Zhuanshan's disciple as an exception after presenting gifts to their master. When they heard this, they were still grumbling about it in their hearts. Perfected Xianxin had never accepted a disciple as an exception, yet he suddenly made such a choice today. This caused many to feel rather unbalanced and look down on that foreign-looking new disciple. It seemed to them that the new disciple who got in through the back door must be a hedonistic son of wealthy parents. Yet unexpectedly, they actually met him now. However, this meeting faded their contempt for him. After perfected Xianxin became the Valley Master, Admirable Sky Peak's disciples had been suffering in silence. Even if they were taken advantage of in other peaks, they could only hold back their anger for the sake of taking the big picture into consideration. This new fellow, however, beat those Blue Cloud Peaks scumbags into pulp, which sparked a jolly feeling in the other Admirable Sky Peak disciples. Yi Chun, is it? You have the guts. You rely on the fact that your master is the valley. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were about to ramble on. Yi Qingtang scoffed coldly. Do you all know how to talk about other things? So what if my master is the valley master? Should all of us Admirable Sky Peak disciples behave by tucking our tail between our legs just because of that? What has today's incident got to do with my master? If you all refuse to accept this, just come to me all together. It'll beat you all up until you all are willing to concede defeat. Yi Qingtang simply could not be bothered to speak to these Blue Cloud Peak disciples. In her previous life, perfected Xianxin also made his disciples exercise forbearance in consideration of the big picture. But in the end, it only emboldened the various peak masters and disciples, and Falling Sky Valley was even more chaotic. As a result, when Falling Sky Valley met with a calamity, each peak defended themselves instead of coming together as one and were attacked one by one. Falling Sky Valley was mighty, but because everyone harbored different intentions, it was all but a disunited valley. Some people were like that. If you let them have his way and tolerated their antics, they would become even more savage and not know how to exercise restraint. Only when they were beaten up would they realize that they had to listen to whoever with a harder fist. Yi Qingtang had always believed in perfected Zhuanshan's direction in maintaining the harmony in Falling Sky Valley, but facts had proven that even if her master accommodated others, it was merely asking for trouble by indulging the enemy. In the past, he had inflated other peak masters' ambitions and fattened the guts of various peaks' disciples. In this life, she would not let them have their way again. What a big talker! The Blue Cloud Peak disciples' expression darkened. They unsheathed their swords and immediately charged towards Yi Qingtang. Yin Shu and Yin Xingluo were shocked and wanted to step in. However, a trace of coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, and she drew out the demonic blood sword. As she waved her hand, a sword aura suddenly rushed out from her blade. Clank, clank, clank. Numerous clear sounds rang. Wherever the cold glint slashed across, several broken sword tips fell on the ground. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples' swords were broken by Yi Qingtang's sword aura. The remaining sword aura pounded on the chest of those Blue Cloud Peak disciples and sent them flying away immediately. Who still refuses to accept this? To come on up. Enchanting swept a cold glance across the crowd. Chapter 736. Who still refuses to accept this? 2. In just a moment, the surrounding disciples were dumbfounded. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples stood up, stumbling, and glared at Yi Qingtang with clenched teeth. Yi Chun, just you wait. I'll welcome you anytime. Yi Qingtang laughed coldly. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciple then left in a flurry. They were merely ordinary disciples of the lowest level in Blue Cloud Peak, and their skills were really nothing much. At most, they could only bully disciples like Shang Qianyu who just entered the valley. They were relying on the fact that Admirable Sky Peak disciples did not dare to brashly step forward to help free the victim from the predicament. Unexpectedly, they met a tough cookie like Yi Qingtang today. When they saw the Blue Cloud Peak disciples leaving, the onlooking disciples finally dispersed gradually, with an additional memory of Yi Qingtang, who just got in through the back door. Shang Qinyu looked at Yi Qingtang extremely gratefully. Thank you, Senior Brother Yi. Thank you, Senior Brother Yi. The white sage which he lost and obtained once again was really important to him. We are all disciples of the same master. There's no need for thanks. Yi Qingtang smiled and waved her hands. Inqing Luo looked at Yi Qingtang with a slight frown and a complicated gaze. This fellow who got in through the back door was not too unlikable, but this incident might not be over so easily. After watching for a long time, Yin Shu eventually took a step forward and called for Yi Qingtang. Junior Brother Yi, Senior Brother Yin? Yi Qingtang looked at Yin Shu. You must be careful in the future. Since you are a disciple of our master, you should take note of what you say and how you act from now on. Disciples from our peak must not stir trouble in the valley. Do you understand? Yin Shu did not have much of an expression on his face. What Yi Qingtang did today was indeed satisfying, but it defied perfected Zuanshan's orders. After those Blue Cloud Peak returned, they might still make some noise about it. If not for the sake of the larger interest, either he or Inqing Luo could easily finish those few people with middling skills. Furthermore, Yi Chun did enter through the back door, and this news would be circulated in various Falling Sky Valley's peaks very quickly. His actions today would probably spark criticisms again. If this implicated Master, it would be bad. Although Yin Shu felt that Yi Qingtang's actions were still all right, he also thought that he was too public about it. Such a person who became a disciple under the cautious perfected Xianxun with that method would really stir up quite some trouble. Yi Qingtang naturally understood what Yin Shu meant. Yin Shu had always obeyed perfected Zuanshan's orders. In Yi Qingtang's previous life, when proposed to maintain the harmony among the peaks, Yin Shu executed it fully and only thought of protecting it in spite of suffering injustice. Loyal as he was too obstinate. I understand. They'll take notice in the future. Yi Qingtang nodded faintly. Anyway, even if she reasoned with Yin Shu over what was right, Yin Shu's mind was probably too stubborn to agree with her, so she might as well save the saliva. She had already reached Falling Sky Valley now, and whatever she wanted to do was up to her. After seeing Yi Qingtang's reflective attitude, Yin Shu did not say anything else and told Inqing Luo beside him. Junior Sister Yin, bring Junior Brother Sheng to check his injuries first. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples did not spare any mercy in kicking Shang Qianyu. Chapter 737. Who still refuses to accept this? 3. All right. Inqing Luo nodded slightly. Yin Shu did not say anything and continued bringing Yi Qingtang around the valley. Sheng Qianyu's eyes were filled with gratitude as he watched Yi Qingtang's fading back. Senior Sister Yin, this Senior Brother Yi. Inqing Luo returned to her senses and looked at the thankful Shang Qianyu. Yi Chun was just apprenticed to Master and does not really understand the valley situation yet. For today's incident, you've suffered. Shang Qianyu shook his head. Am all to blame for not seeing people clearly and being too trustful of others. I know. Master is thinking in consideration of the general situation. Inqing Luo sighed. Incidents like today's happen in Falling Sky Valley occasionally, and they admirable Sky Peak disciples have been swallowing the insult and suppressing their indignation. In terms of grievance, which of them was short of any? Yet, even if they were aggrieved, they could only endure it. Master has his own difficulties. Currently, all the other peak masters have veiled criticisms over Master being the acting Valley Master. For the stability of Falling Sky Valley, we can only be like this. Sheng Qinyu nodded. Although he agreed in his heart, one should judge the matter as it stood. When he was picked on by those Blue Cloud Peak disciples, when was he not aggrieved? However, this cannot be said out. All right, they'll bring you to check your injuries first. Qing Luo did not say anything further and brought Sheng Qinyu to the physician. Coincidentally, Qing Luo saw 3 familiar figures at the physician. Eldest senior brother, senior sister Yi, senior brother Qian. There were 2 males and a female in the room. Apart from the devil incarnate, Qian Zhe, from before, there were 2 other people. The male was tall and had an extraordinary bearing, while the lady beside had a graceful frame and an enchanting face. Little Qing, why are you here? Yi Ningxi sat on a chair, cross-legged as she supported her chin with a hand, and her rosy lips formed a bewitching smile. Yi Ningxi was perfected Zuanshan's disciple and was born with enchanting beauty. Although her natural endowments were extremely high, she was temperamental. If she was not wearing the Falling Sky Valley uniform, it seemed that she was from an evil cult just by a look. Qing Luo immediately recounted the events and let the physician check Sheng Qianyu's injuries. The Blue Cloud Peak people are getting more and more outrageous. Only you few people have a good temper and can endure it. Yi Ningxi spoke with a raised brow. If I have to say, just eliminate anyone who refuses to accept it. Can a dead person still come out to stir trouble? Qianzhe yawned from his side and spoke casually. Qing Luo had a little headache as she looked at these 2 people. After Master gave the orders, most of the disciples obeyed him, including those who were perverse and unwilling to suffer those grievances. Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe were 2 of them. Although they were unwilling to follow his words, they did not defy it deliberately either, and they spent less time in the valley, fortunately. Out of sight, out of mind. In addition, these 2 people had brilliant skills and an eccentric personality. No ordinary disciples from other peaks would seek death and offend them too much. Enough. A cold voice rang. The tall youth who had remained silent frowned slightly. Even eccentric people like Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe did not say anything more after that person spoke. Eldest senior brother. Qing Luo looked up at that male with reverence. Chapter 738, Brewing Storm 1. This man was Gu Yihan, perfected Zuanshan's eldest disciple, and he possessed outstanding endowments and a steady nature. He also had prestige among the admirable Sky Peak disciples. You're always talking about these. If you're so free, why don't you cultivate more? Gu Yihan swept a cold glance at Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe. Qianzhe shrugged. I'm just speaking casually. Why did you take it seriously? Eldest senior brother. That new fellow seems strange, though. I reckon he spent quite a sum from Master to accept him as a disciple. I heard that the Yichun fellow is very handsome. Little Qing, have you seen him? Yi Ningxi looked at Qing Luo with a grin. King Luo's headache worsened. Cultivation is dependent on oneself. Even if one was apprenticed, it is meaningless if he does not cultivate diligently, Gu Yihan said. Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe exchanged a look ever since perfected Xianshan took on the position of the acting Valley Master. There were more and more things he had to manage. Gu Yihan had been by perfected Zuanshan's side since young and was the most mature. In addition, he was rather gifted. Thus, he would watch his junior brothers and sisters cultivate when perfected Xianshan was busy. Both Yi Ningxi and Qianzhe were not short of Gu Yihan's nagging. All right, I still have something on. We'll take my leave first. Qianzhe yawned and waved. Similarly, Yi Ningxi took the opportunity and found an excuse to escape. Gu Yihan did not stay on any longer and left after taking the things that he needed. After following Yin Shu around the entire Falling Sky Valley, Yi Qingtang finally returned to her own room. The current Falling Sky Valley was the same as in her memory, just that it was only a few years earlier. Yi Qingtang had stepped into Falling Sky Valley, but she was unaware that there was a storm in the Monarch City because of the black market incident. Covered in dirt, the Dragon Tiger General recounted his encounters with a sullen expression in the Premier's residence. The Nine Knights Dynasty Premier, Qin Long, listened to the Dragon Tiger General's complaints without any emotion. The black market has its rules. Your son did act rashly this time. I know about this already. You can return first. Qin Long waved a hand. The Dragon Tiger General wanted to say something more, but did not dare to offend the Premier. He could only wipe his tears as he departed from the Premier's residence. Once the Dragon Tiger General left, Qin Shun, who had been standing aside, silently told his father. If what the Dragon Tiger General said is true, that young man must have a pretty impressive background. When the Dragon Tiger General mentioned the incident in the black market, Qin Shun heard every word of it. The person had the skills of a half-step yin-yang perfected lord and was very young, as described by the Dragon Tiger General. His future was beyond measure, and becoming a true yin-yang perfected lord in the future was not an issue. Half-step yin-yang perfected lord. Qin Long narrowed his eyes slightly. Such a powerful figure is indeed rare. Since he came to the Monarch City, we must pay attention to him. It would be best if we can make use of this person. If not, judging from his actions, I'm afraid he will be trouble, Qin Shun said. Qin Long nodded. The Dragon Tiger General has already sent someone to draw that person's portrait. Have him send it over sometime soon and take a look at the person's appearance. If possible, employ someone to find out about that person's background, though you must not be exposed. Interact with him if there's a chance. It would be best if he is willing to work for us. Chapter 739, Brewing Storm 2. Yes. Qin Shun nodded. If a half-step yin-yang perfected lord could be used for oneself, it would naturally be a doubling of might. However, if not, it was a huge latent threat. Ouyang Qian is back in the Monarch City now. I heard that she was rather traumatized from the trip to the Mystic Realm. You can make use of this opportunity and pacify her. Qin Long looked at his son and continued on. The Ouyang family clan has a powerful force in the Nine Knights dynasty, and Ouyang Qian is Ouyang clan master's beloved daughter. Even her other brothers are not as doted on as her. If you can marry Ouyang Qian, it will be extremely beneficial for us in the future. I understand. I've already interacted with her quite a number of times previously. Looking at her attitude, she does have some feelings for me. I believe that this can be accomplished in no time. Qin Shun said slowly, confident that he could take Ouyang Qian down. In the entire Nine Knights dynasty, Qin Shun's position and appearance were considered the cream of the crop, and there was barely anyone who could contest against him. Moreover, his family and Ouyang Qian's were well matched in social status. That will be best. Qin Long nodded slightly. Investigate the background of that half-step yin-yang perfected lord and interact with Ouyang Qian. You must not slacken your efforts in these two matters. The Tiangang sect master has sent someone to confer with me recently, and I will not be able to leave to do anything else in this period of time. Qin Shun nodded with smiles in his eyes. Currently, his father, Qin Long, could be said to hold absolute power in Nine Knights dynasty, and that young emperor was fooled to be extremely obedient. If he could gain the support of Tiangang sect, a super sect, there was no one in the entire Nine Knights dynasty who could shake his father's position. Tiangang sect already has the intention to work with Nine Knights dynasty since some time ago, though the previous emperor was unwilling to. However, it's not something he can control anymore. Qin Long's lips curled into a sneer. Qin Shun did not say anything and seemed to be in thought as he looked at his father's expression. Nine Knights dynasty's previous emperor was in the prime of his life when he suddenly came down with a severe illness, and he had to pass his position down to his son. As for the reason behind the previous emperor's sickness, it was a question to the entire imperial court. However, Qin Shun understood one point. Ever since the previous emperor abdicated, his father had increasing authority in the Nine Knights dynasty, and the young emperor was all the more trustful of his father. Was his father involved in the previous emperor's illness? While Qin Shun was curious, he did not ask about it. All right. Fuling City seems to be quite ill-behaved these few months, Qin Long suddenly said. The city lord of Fuling City is an official who served the royal family for a long time. Although he is far from the central authority, he still acts haughtily, Qin Shun said. Didn't he just serve that person before? That person has already disappeared for over 10 years now. Who else in the Nine Knights dynasty remembers her? Since Fuling City is not behaving, let the emperor decree that the city lord of Fuling City makes a trip to the monarch city. As Qin Long spoke, he spread out an imperial decree on his table and wrote a few lines. Afterward, he took out the emperor's jade seal, which he carried on him, and directly stamped on the imperial decree that he personally wrote. Have someone send it to Fuling City. Yes. Qin Shun received the imperial decree, and a scoff flashed across his eyes. Chapter 740 Brewing Storm 3. There was an abundance of spirit energy in Falling Sky Valley, and Yi Qingtang's speed of cultivation advancement was way faster than when she was in Xianling sect. However, she was already a half-step yin-yang perfected lord now, and it was still insufficient if she wanted to enter the true yin-yang perfected lord state in a short time. However, the time left for her was not a lot. Xianling sect's defense would disappear in just a few months. By then, Yinshao sect would definitely not let Xianling sect off. Given Yi Qingtang's current skills, although she could look down upon a group of people from Yinshao sect, it was not enough to contend against the entire Yinshao sect just by herself. Only by entering the yin-yang perfected lord could she truly resolve Xianling sect's crisis. Furthermore, Yi Qingtang looked up at the familiar scenery in Falling Sky Valley. In her previous life, her master, perfected Xianshun, became the acting valley master, which attracted the dissatisfaction with various peaks. Although her master maintained the harmony within the valley with all his might and tolerated many things in consideration of the overall situation, he was suppressed by the other peak masters not long later and was forced to give up the position of the acting valley master. Because of that, Falling Sky Valley became segregated and ultimately was met with a calamity. It was also at that time when her master was killed by Yi Yu. After a rebirth, Yi Qingtang had long seen that the different peak masters had their own designs and that her master was the only one who would maintain the harmony within the valley. This was also the reason why the old valley master handed the acting valley master position to her master from the start. In this life, Yi Qingtang would never let such an incident happen again. She would not allow anyone to force her master into giving up the valley master position. Although she could suppress all the Falling Sky Valley disciples with her current skills, it was still insufficient against the peak masters. Falling Sky Valley had 12 peaks, and most of the peak masters were in the yin-yang perfected lord state. Furthermore, the 3 peak masters who forced her master in giving up the valley master position were all yin lords of the yin-yang perfected lord state. If Yi Qingtang did not want the tragedy from her previous life to happen again, the only option was to enter the yin-yang perfected lord state as quickly as possible. With various urgent matters staring at her in the face, Yi Qingtang increasingly felt the need to raise her skills rapidly. At that thought, Yi Qingtang immediately thought of the dragon vein, which Master Du told her about. If the dragon vein was really like what Master Du said, perhaps it would be a chance for her skills to increase as quickly as possible. At that thought, Yi Qingtang no longer had any more hesitation. She immediately brought the little white tiger and silver wolf out of Falling Sky Valley and headed towards the Bliss Forging Workshop. Just as Yi Qingtang was about to leave Falling Sky Valley, the few Blue Cloud Peak disciples whom she beat up that day were complaining tearfully to a tall youth. Eldest senior brother, Admirable Sky Peak went too far in bullying us. That Yichun fellow was just accepted as a disciple by perfected Xianxin and was already this arrogant to casually beat people up in the valley. Eldest senior brother, you must help us. It isn't anything for us to suffer from injustice, but that Yichun clearly did not have any regard for us Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Although we were beaten up, he attacked us publicly and did not spare any face for our Blue Cloud Peak. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples echoed after each other and completely left out the incident where they stole Shang Qianyus belonging first, wishing they could make Yi Qingtang's evil conduct public. The male standing before them frowned slightly, and a trace of unhappiness could be seen on his good-looking face. Chapter 741, Causing Trouble. 1. This person was Li Jingwen, and he was the eldest disciple of Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master. Among all the Blue Cloud Peak disciples, he was the most skilled. Li Jingwen's eyes swept across those junior brothers. When he saw the bruises on their faces, a sharp look flashed across his eyes. Really a useless bunch. You all actually got beaten up by a fellow who just entered the valley and still have the face to come and complain. Those disciples trembled after being shouted at by Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen narrowed his eyes and spoke slowly. Since Admirable Sky Peak has such an ill-behaved person, Blue Cloud Peak will not be that easygoing either. You all will go to Admirable Sky Peak with me. Those Blue Cloud Peak disciples' eyes brightened immediately, and they followed Li Jingwen. Blue Cloud Peak and Admirable Sky Peak had not been on good terms for a long time. Moreover, the Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master fully supported Full Moon Peak's Peak Master as the acting Valley Master when the old Valley Master was recuperating back then. Unexpectedly, the position ultimately landed to Admirable Sky Peak's Peak Master, Perfected Xianxin. Ever since Perfected Xianxin became the Valley Master, Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master instructed his disciples to draw a clear line between them and Admirable Sky Peak. Although Perfected Xianxin was the current Peak Master, both Blue Cloud Peak and Watercut Peak, with Full Moon Peak as their leader, completely ignored Perfected Xuanxin's plans and even turned a deaf ear to Perfected Xuanxin's orders. In Admirable Sky Peak, Yin Qingluo, Yin Shu, and others were watching the other disciples in the peak cultivate. Ever since their master became the Valley Master, he had much less time to discipline his disciples, and disciples who became apprenticed to him earlier began to be responsible for the other disciples' cultivation. Junior Brother Shang, do you feel better over the past 2 days? Yin Qingluo looked at Shang Qinyu and asked. Thanks for your concern, Senior Sister Yin. I'm much better already. Shang Qianyu's face flushed a little as he nodded. Yin Qingluo chuckled and turned to look at Yin Shu. Senior Brother Yin, eldest Senior Brother, is not in the valley today. Senior Brother Qian and the rest left the valley to laze around too, and they pushed these things on us instead. Yin Shu sighed helplessly. He was about to say something, but saw a disciple rushing over anxiously. Senior Brother Yin, Li Jingwen of Blue Cloud Peak, suddenly came to our Admirable Sky Peak. Yin Shu was slightly stunned. Li Jingwen, Yin Shu, and Yin Qingluo exchanged a look immediately, seeing a trace of confusion in each other's eyes. Li Jingwen was the top disciple of Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master and had never looked at Admirable Sky Peak's disciples in the eye, much less step into the Admirable Sky Peak. Why did he suddenly run over to Admirable Sky Peak today then? What is Li Jingwen here for? Yin Qingluo asked with a frown. Yin Shu shook his head. Blue Cloud Peak and our Admirable Sky Peak have been on bad terms for a long time. Li Jingwen's skills improved greatly over the 2 years. Now that eldest Senior Brother is not here, we must be more careful. Li Jingwen's skills were not to be trifled with. Among all the Admirable Sky Peak disciples, Gu Yihan was the only one who could contend with him. Yin Qingluo nodded. As they conversed, Li Jingwen had already walked over with some people behind him. When Yin Qingluo and Yin Shu saw the Blue Cloud Peak disciples following behind Li Jingwen, their brows furrowed automatically. Aren't those disciples the fellows who wanted to snag Junior Brother Shang's item? Why are they here as well? Yin Qingluo frowned as an inauspicious feeling rose within her. Chapter 742, Causing Trouble 2. Yin Shu noticed those Blue Cloud Peak disciples as well. Those people failed to steal Shang Qianyu's things, and even ended being beaten up by Yi Qingtang that day. Then, Yin Shu already felt that this matter would not end just like that. Now, well, wait and see, Yin Shu said cautiously and walked towards Li Jingwen with Yin Qingluo. In Admirable Sky Peak, Those disciples who were still cultivating could not help but stop whatever they were doing when they saw Li Jingwen and a group of Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Confusion and puzzlement filled their eyes as they looked at those Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Why are the Blue Cloud Peak people here at our admirable sky peak today? Who knows? Isn't that Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple, Li Jingwen? Why is he here too? Admirable Sky Peak disciples long knew about the unfriendly relations between the two peaks, and both peaks' disciples were irked with each other when they met in the valley. Furthermore, after their peak master, perfected Xianxun, became the acting valley master, the relations between the two peaks worsened. However, they were warned by perfected Xianxun to not enter a strife with Blue Cloud Peak, and they could only endure it silently even if they suffered unjustly. Yet, unexpectedly, Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple actually brought people to their admirable sky peak today. In the crowd, Sheng Qianya's heart trembled when he saw Li Jingwen and those familiar figures. On the other side, Yin Shu and Yin Luo had already walked to Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen was Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple, and he entered the valley earlier than Yin Shu and Yin Luo. Thus, both of them had to address him as senior brother. Senior brother Li. Yin Shu greeted politely. Li Jingwen stood firmly with no intention of bothering with Yin Shu and said coldly, "Where is your admirable sky, Peaks Yichun? Call him out." Yin Shu was slightly taken aback. Yichun had only entered the valley for a few days and should not have come into contact with Li Jingwen. Why was Li Jingwen looking for him suddenly? When Yin Shu saw those Blue Cloud Peak disciples behind Li Jingwen, he more or less knew what was going on. Junior brother Yi is not in the valley today. He left the valley this morning. May I know what you're finding him for, senior brother Li? Yin Shu asked while maintaining his composure. Not here. Is he really not here? Or does he not dare to come out? Li Jingwen laughed coldly. Junior brother Yi left the valley earlier today. If senior brother Li has something for him, why don't you let us know first? We will help you to relay the message. Yin Luo said immediately. I indeed have something to look for him for. Li Jingwen looked at Yin Luo, and his lips curled into a sneer. A few days ago, he injured the Blue Cloud Peak disciples for no reason. You must give me an explanation for this. As expected, Yin Shu and Yin Luo understood what Li Jingwen was here for immediately. Upon hearing Li Jingwen's words, the other Admirable Sky Peak disciples whispered to one another. How long has Yichun been in Falling Sky Valley? Why did he beat up the Blue Cloud Peak disciples? Valley Master warned us repeatedly not to dispute with other Peak's disciples, but he already stirred up these troubles when he just entered the valley. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples were dissatisfied. Although Yi Qingtang entered the valley for days, she rarely appeared before them. Thus, although they had seen her face, they did not have any contact with her. Chapter 743. Causing Trouble 3. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples had only heard that Yi Qingtang used the back door to be apprenticed to the Valley Master, and that her spirit root was not as good as some ordinary disciples. They did not have any ties with Yi Qingtang from the start, and now that they saw Yi Qingtang stirring these troubles, many Admirable Sky Peak disciples felt conflicted about that new Valley Master's disciple. Only Sheng Qianyu showed a trace of nervousness and bewilderment. Others did not know why Yi Qingtang offended these Blue Cloud Peak people, but he was more than clear. Yi Qingtang clearly did it for him. However, never would Sheng Qianyu have thought that this matter would actually offend Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple, Li Jingwen. It should be known that Li Jingwen was extremely skilled. In the entire Admirable Sky Peak, only their eldest senior brother, Gu Yihan, could contend against him. No, senior brother Yi. Senior brother Yi, Sheng Qianyu tried to explain to the other disciples beside him, but he did not have any presence in the peak, and no one would hear him with all their attention focused on Li Jingwen. Yin Shu knew Li Jingwen's motive of coming here, but he tried to maintain a calm expression on his face. We will let junior brother Yi know about this. When he returns, he will find you to give you an explanation. Let him know. Li Jingwen arched his brows as he sized up Yin Shu. This is how perfected Xianxun teaches his disciples? Since you Admirable Sky Peak does not have any regard for Blue Cloud Peak, there's no need for us to be polite anymore. Once Li Jingwen finished his sentence, his left hand suddenly balled into a fist and crashed into Yin Shu's chest. Yin Shu did not expect Li Jingwen to strike suddenly and was completely defenseless. Moreover, Li Jingwen's skills were above his, and his fist directly landed on Yin Shu's chest, which sent him flying out. Senior brother Yin, Inqing Luo did not think that Li Jingwen would be so truculent and unreasonable. When she saw Yin Shu collapse on the ground and struggling to stand up, she instinctively clutched onto the sword at her waist. Junior sister Yin, do not. Yin Shu supported himself up with difficulty and hurriedly stopped Inqing Luo from attacking. The knuckles of King Luo's hand, which gripped the sword, whitened. Your Admirable Sky Peak is impertinent in this matter first. Since you all can attack disciples from other peaks in the valley so casually, you all should be able to tolerate these yourselves, right? Li Jingwen laughed coldly. Looking at Inqing Luo, who wanted to unsheath her sword, there was no regret on his face, and he was more arrogant instead. Li Jingwen, don't go too far in bullying others. Inqing Luo gritted her teeth as she glared at Li Jingwen. It was clearly their Blue Cloud Peak disciples who caused troubles over and over again, but they were playing the blame game now. Go too far in bullying others? I'm bullying you all today. So what? A sneer flashed across Li Jingwen's eyes. Anyways, his master had been dissatisfied with perfected Xianxin for a long time, and he could use this opportunity to teach the Admirable Sky Peak people a lesson. There was nothing to be scared of. Then, Li Jingwen suddenly attacked Inqing Luo. Inqing Luo unsheathed her sword immediately, but Li Jingwen's skills were way above hers. Before she could make a move, Li Jingwen had already kicked Inqing Luo away. Chapter 744, Causing Trouble 4. A sneer emerged on Li Jingwen's face when he saw the Admirable Sky Peak disciples unsheath their swords. In the entire Admirable Sky Peak, only the top disciple, Gu Yihan, could defeat him. Now, that perfected Xianxan became the acting Valley Master and had the intention of training Gu Yihan to be the next Peak Master of Admirable Sky Peak. Even if Gu Yihan was present today, given Gu Yihan's identity, it was inconvenient for him to interfere in the learning exchange between disciples. Great. He'll teach you all a good lesson today. A cold glint flashed across Li Jingwen's eyes, and he immediately drew his sword out before charging towards the Admirable Sky Peak disciples. The other Blue Cloud Peak disciples had a proud look when they saw Li Jingwen striking. Li Jingwen's skills were amazing and were not what these ordinary Admirable Sky Peak disciples could contend against. In just the blink of an eye, many disciples were beaten to the ground by Li Jingwen. Yin Shu and Inqing Luo were about to attack Li Jingwen when they saw the sight. Call eldest senior brother over quickly. Before Inqing Luo attacked, she immediately grabbed an Admirable Sky Peak disciple and said, Gu Yihan was not in the peak today, and Li Jingwen had already attacked. Only by calling eldest senior brother back could they suppress Li Jingwen. After hearing that disciple hurried off to search for Gu Yihan. Inqing Luo and Yin Shu joined hands and blocked Li Jingwen's move directly, giving the other disciples who were injured by Li Jingwen the chance for a breather. Li Jingwen, are you here today just to stir up trouble? Inqing Luo berated. Li Jingwen's brows were cocked up slightly as he scoffed. So what if I am? Since Yi Chun from your Admirable Sky Peak can injure my Blue Cloud Peak disciples, why can't I beat you all up? As he spoke, Li Jingwen directly launched an attack at King Luo's face. Careful, junior sister Yin. Yin Shu pulled Inqing Luo over and used his sword to block Li Jingwen's attack. However, a loud clank erupted when they clashed, and a cut was slashed on Yin Shu's fingers from the impact. In just an instant, Inqing Luo and Yin Shu were locked in combat with Li Jingwen. The other Admirable Sky Peak disciples were extremely anxious as they watched. Given their skills, they were simply not Li Jingwen's opponent, and over 10 people were injured by Li Jingwen in a short while just now. Where's Yi Chun? This matter is started by him, but he is nowhere to be found and implicated us to suffer for nothing. The admirable sky peak disciples' expressions were extremely ugly when they saw the sight. If Yi Qingtang did not offend the blue cloud peak people, why would they be implicated? Sheng Qinyu was extremely anxious. He was the clearest about the cause of this incident, and was even more anxious when he heard the others complaining about Yi Qingtang. However, no one would listen no matter how much he explained now. When Sheng Qinyu saw that Yin Xingluo and Yin Shu could not defeat Li Jingwen, he gritted his teeth quietly and immediately charged forward. It was already extremely strenuous for Yin Xingluo and Yin Shu to focus on receiving Li Jingwen's moves, and there were many injuries on them by then. Before they could react in time, they suddenly saw Sheng Qinyu rushing in. Junior brother Sheng. Yin Xingluo was alarmed. Sheng Qinyu was already in front of Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen did not even bat Sheng Qinyu an eye and slashed at Sheng Qinyu with a sword directly. That attack struck Sheng Qianyu's shoulder, and a cut that was half a meter deep extended from his shoulder to his body. Chapter 745, Causing Trouble 5. In an instant, there was blood spurting out. Scarlet blood scattered down as if it was raining. Shock was etched all over Sheng Qianyu's fair and clear face. The excruciating pain on his shoulder pierced through his nerves. He looked at Li Jingwen wide-eyed as his body crashed on the ground. Li Jingwen looked at Sheng Qinyu coldly without a slight trace of pity in his eyes. He was just a mere ordinary disciple and a peak, yet he still dared to come forward. If this was not courting death, what was? Yin Xingluo and Yin Shu were appalled when they saw Sheng Qinyu on the ground. You admirable sky peak disciples really don't have any manners. An ordinary disciple also wished to come up and court death. Li Jingwen let out a chuckle, contempt evident in his tone. He flicked the remaining blood on his blade away and pointed his sword at Yin Xingluo and Yin Shu. Which of you wants to be next? You. Yin Xingluo's expression was extremely ugly as she gritted her teeth, wanting to behead the wildly arrogant Li Jingwen. However, junior sister Yin backed down. A deep voice suddenly rang. Yin Xingluo and the rest turned around to see that Gu Yihan was already behind them from some time ago. Eldest senior brother. A grieve and refusal filled Yin Xingluo's eyes as she looked at Gu Yihan, who appeared suddenly. Gu Yihan walked to Li Jingwen's front. When he saw Sheng Qinyu, who collapsed on the ground and was bleeding profusely, his brows furrowed. Bring him to receive treatment. The other admirable sky peak disciples hurriedly came forward upon hearing that, wanting to bring Sheng Qinyu away from the scene. Sheng Qinyu was already fuzzy by then as he vaguely saw Gu Yihan's figure. When he was carried past Gu Yihan, he suddenly reached for Gu Yihan's sleeves with his blood-filled hands. Eldest senior brother, this matter has nothing to do with senior. Brother Yi, he did it for me. Sheng Qianyu's hands trembled as he looked at Gu Yihan with a strain. There was a look of seriousness in Gu Yihan's eyes. He slowly pulled Sheng Qianyu's hand away and nodded at the disciples supporting Sheng Qinyu. Then, Sheng Qinyu, who was losing consciousness, was brought away. There was not a slight trace of fear on Li Jingwen's face as he looked at Gu Yihan, who suddenly appeared, and his lips curled up instead. Gu Yihan looked at Li Jingwen coldly with narrowed eyes. At this instant, the admirable sky peak disciples were extremely expectant as they looked at Gu Yihan's back view. It was as though they had a pillar at this very moment, and they dearly hoped that their eldest senior brother could return them justice. However, Gu Yihan took a deep breath, forcefully suppressing the anger in him, and looked at Li Jingwen. Junior brother Li, are you done causing trouble? Li Jingwen shrugged and said, Senior brother Gu, what you said does not make sense. How is it that I caused trouble today? If Yi Chun from your admirable sky peak did not attack first that day, why would I come to admirable sky peak to seek justice for my junior brothers? When Li Jingwen said that the Blue Cloud Peak disciples who came with him immediately put on a weak front. When the Admirable Sky Peak disciples saw those Blue Cloud Peak disciples feigning frailness, they almost could not stop themselves from running forward and skinning them alive. Chapter 746. Causing Trouble. 6. Weren't they very arrogant and flaunting their prowess when they were behind Li Jingwen just now? Yet they were acting pitiful now. Eldest senior brother, for this matter, Yin Luo wanted to say something to Gu Yihan when she saw how shameless Li Jingwen and the other Blue Cloud Peak disciples were. However, Gu Yihan raised his hand and stopped Yin Luo from finishing her sentence. Junior brother Li, Yi Chun is not in the valley today. When he returns, I will interrogate him myself. If you don't have anything else today, you can head back first, Junior brother Li, Gu Yihan said coldly. As he finished speaking, his hand that hung beside him seemed to touch the sword handle at his waist casually. Li Jingwen sharply noticed Gu Yihan's action, and his eyes flickered. If Gu Yihan really attacked, he was probably not Gu Yihan's opponent. Li Jingwen pondered for a moment and finally said, "Since that is what you want, they'll give you face today. However, my junior brother sustained rather heavy injuries. Yi Chun attacked first and has to give our Blue Cloud Peak an explanation no matter what. In addition, he has to compensate for the loss of my junior brothers." "He'll relay the message," Gu Yihan said in a deep tone. Li Jingwen smiled as he reached his objective. Subsequently, he turned around and led those Blue Cloud Peak disciples away, not forgetting to leave a sentence before leaving. "Senior brother Gu, your Admirable Sky Peak disciples are merely like that." "Ha!" Yin Luo clenched her teeth tightly as she watched Li Jingwen and the rest leave. "Eldest senior brother, why did you let them go just like that? They injured so many Admirable Sky Peak disciples. We let them off just like that." Yin Luo could no longer hold herself back. Gu Yihan looked at the exasperated Yin Luo, who burst into a fury, but he did not say anything. Then, he looked at those injured Admirable Sky Peak disciples, and a constrained expression was increasingly evident in his eyes. "Do you think this only involves the Blue Cloud Peak?" Gu Yihan asked. Yin Luo was slightly stunned. Yin Shu sighed helplessly and patted Yin Luo's shoulder. "Junior sister Yin, eldest senior brother has his own reasons for doing this." He paused for a moment and continued. "Blue Cloud Peak and Watercut Peak have always been on friendly terms with Full Moon Peak, which is the most powerful peak in Falling Sky Valley. When Master became the acting Valley Master back then, it attracted the dissatisfaction of the peak masters of these three peaks. Full Moon Peak's Peak Master has been trying to find a chance to launch an attack on Master, but as of now, it was to no avail. Master did not want us to stir troubles, because he did not want to ruin the harmony in Falling Sky Valley. If this matter is blown up, Watercut Peak and Full Moon Peak would also participate in this, much less Blue Cloud Peak. By then, Falling Sky Valley would be chaotic. Eldest senior brother also had no choice but to do this. Yin Shu's tone was rather helpless. Taking the big picture into consideration, the Admirable Sky Peak disciples could only give in to others again and again. Yin Luo pursed her lips. Although she understood the reason for this injustice stifled her. Do we have to keep conniving them just like that? Yin Luo threw her sword on the ground furiously and left. Although she knew that this was a stopgap measure, how could she swallow this grievance down? Yin Shu felt extremely helpless as he watched Yin Luo leave. However, he adjusted his emotions very quickly and told Gu Yihan, "Eldest senior brother, you can do whatever you need to do first. I can settle the things here." Chapter 747. Get the hell out. 1. Gu Yihan nodded his head silently. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples were originally boiling with anger because of Li Jingwen, but now they felt powerless after hearing what Yin Shu said. Li Jingwen is simply relying on the fact that Watercut Peak and Full Moon Peak are backing Blue Cloud Peak. They are merely emboldened by the support. Valley Master has just taken up the post and has his own worries. In the end, it's all Yi Chen's fault. Although other peaks stirred trouble occasionally, it didn't blow up so big like this. Who said it isn't? It was already an exception for him to be apprenticed to the Valley Master. He has only entered the valley for a while, yet he has already caused such huge trouble for our admirable Sky Peak and implicated so many fellow disciples. It would be better for such an ill-mannered person to be kicked out of the valley as soon as possible. The disciples did not dare to make any dissent about the Valley Master, and thus vented their unhappiness on Yi Qingtang. Those who were already displeased with Yi Qingtang using other means to be apprenticed to perfected Xianxin were even more irritated with her now. Stop talking already. Hurry up and treat your injuries if you have to. For the others, continue on with your cultivation, Yin Shu said with a headache. He also sustained plenty of injuries earlier on and was also very vexed currently. Yi Qingtang went to the Bliss Forging Workshop to talk with Master Du about the Dragon Vein, but he was not present today. Then, she asked Du Sheng to relay the message to Master Du and return to Falling Sky Valley. However, the moment she stepped into Admirable Sky Peak, she sensed that there was something off with the atmosphere. While the Peak's disciples were not friendly to her previously, they still forced a greeting on account that she was perfected Xuanqin's disciple. Yet, currently, as Yi Qingtang walked in Admirable Sky Peak, she saw that all the disciples did not utter a word to her and that they looked at her with intense repulsion and resentment. What happened? She only went out for half a day. Yet why do the Admirable Sky Peak disciples look at her as though they wanted to devour her? When she arrived at the cultivation field, she smelled a faint smell of blood. The instant some injured disciples saw her, their eyes shot her a sharp look. Junior Brother Yi, you're back. Yin Shu, who was guiding the disciples in their cultivation, saw that Yi Qingtang returned and immediately walked to her. Senior Brother Yin, what happened to you? Yi Qingtang's eyes were filled with shock when she saw Yin Shu, who had bruises on his face and a bandaged arm. What happened to Yin Shu? Why is he injured all over? Yin Shu's expression stiffened a little. Taking a deep breath, he said, Li Jingwen from the Blue Cloud Peak came here just now. Li Jingwen. Yi Qingtang arched a brow. She knew of Li Jingwen from her previous life. He was the top disciple of Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master and had a frivolous and arrogant nature. A few years later, Li Jingwen's skills advanced by leaps and bounds to the point that he even showed signs of surpassing Gui Han. That's right. He came to Admirable Sky Peak to find you for you to give him an explanation. Yin Shu nodded. What explanation should I give him? Yi Qingtang chuckled. Perhaps it was this chuckle that ignited the Admirable Sky Peak disciple's displeasure. A disciple with bruises on his face immediately stopped cultivating and darted to Yi Qingtang's front. Why are you still acting innocent here? If you didn't injure those Blue Cloud Peak disciples that day, why would Li Jingwen come today? Chapter 748. Get the hell out too? Yi Qingtang was blanking out. That disciple continued venting. Do you know how many fellow disciples suffered just because you attacked them that day? Li Jingwen came knocking on our door today, but could not find you, so he beat up so many of fellow disciples. Even senior sister Yin and senior brother Yin were injured by him, yet you still don't talk anymore. Yin Shu stopped that disciple with a low voice. However, Yi Qingtang heard each and every word. In just a moment, the smile on Yi Qingtang's face disappeared without a trace. Senior brother Yin, what happened exactly? Yi Qingtang asked Yin Shu. Yin Shu hesitated for a moment. Knowing that Yi Qingtang would know about this matter sooner or later, he no longer hid it and told Yi Qingtang everything about Li Jingwen coming to cause trouble. We are still okay, but junior brother Sheng's injuries are more severe, and he still hasn't regained consciousness. Coldness flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes, and she narrowed her eyes. All of a sudden, she turned around and walked away. An Admirable Sky Peak disciple scorned. He knows that he caused trouble now and wants to hide now. Stupefied, Yin Shu said immediately, Junior brother Yi, where are you going? Yi Qingtang paused in her tracks, but did not look back. Didn't Li Jingwen want me to give him an explanation? I'm going to give him an explanation. Then, Yi Qingtang immediately headed towards Blue Cloud Peak. Yin Shu felt a little complicated upon hearing that. If Yi Qingtang could swallow her pride and apologize to Li Jingwen, perhaps this matter could be over. It was just that, when he thought of Li Jingwen's actions today, Yin Shu's heart could not be at ease. Even if Yi Qingtang apologized, Li Jingwen would probably not accept it so easily. Although Yin Shu did not like this new junior brother, he could not leave him alone either. He directly ordered other disciples to cultivate by themselves, and he wanted to chase after Yi Qingtang. Senior brother Yin, why do you still care about him? Isn't this trouble that he caused for us big enough? A disciple said resentfully. Yin Shu did not reply and directly chased after Yi Qingtang. The silver wolf beside Yi Qingtang clearly sensed a trace of murderous air from Yi Qingtang. The little white tiger snickered. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples are extremely foolish. Do they really think that everything will subside just by exercising forbearance? In my opinion, this falling sky valley is also as messy as a pot of porridge. By making concessions like that perfected Xianxun is merely inflating the morale of other peaks. Yi Qingtang did not say anything and walked straight to Blue Cloud Peak. On the Blue Cloud Peak, a group of Blue Cloud Peak disciples were gathered together in between the breaks of cultivation to chat. You all didn't see how impressive our eldest senior brother was at Admirable Sky Peak. Those Admirable Sky Peak disciples didn't even dare to let out a fart in front of eldest senior brother and were extremely fearful like cowards. That's right. With just their dilettantish skills, how are they eldest senior brother's opponent? Yinxing Luo and Yin Shu joined forces but could not even counterattack when they fought eldest senior brother. So much for being perfected Zhuanshan's disciples. Admirable Sky Peak's Guihan came, but what's the use? Even when he saw his fellow disciples being beaten up, didn't he still have to be polite and courteous? That's unlike our eldest senior brother, who directly charged there after knowing that we suffered. That's called impressive. Chapter 749, Get the Hell Out 3. The disciples who followed Li Jingwen to Admirable Sky Peak today recounted Li Jingwen's impressive manner to their fellow disciples, who listened with great interest. Luckily, that Yi Chun is not in the valley today. Otherwise, if eldest senior brother shot a look at him, he would probably pee in his pants from fear. It really is like what eldest senior brother said. Admirable Sky Peak disciples are merely like that. Just as the Blue Cloud Peak disciples were gathered together, a figure suddenly arrived at Blue Cloud Peak. Those disciples who were still chatting immediately stopped talking when they saw the elegant figure in front of them. Yi Chun, a Blue Cloud Peak disciple who was beaten up by Yi Qingtang before recognized Yi Qingtang with a look. Then, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples looked at Yi Qingtang with daggers in their eyes. Yi Chun, what are you doing here at Blue Cloud Peak? Why? Have you thought it through? Do you know that you're in the wrong already? So you came here to apologize? You're sensible. If you still don't know what's good for you, our eldest senior brother will take good care of you. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples were extremely arrogant. Looking at Yi Qingtang, who came to them herself, they immediately thought that she was frightened out of her wits by their eldest senior brother's actions, and that she rushed over frantically to apologize. Yi Qingtang looked at the Blue Cloud Peak disciples coldly, and a slight sneer seemed to play on her lips. Where's Li Jingwen? Fellow, you wish to meet our eldest senior brother? Do you have the qualifications to? Since you're here to apologize, you should have an apologetic attitude. What do you think this is? This is Blue Cloud Peak. We don't care whose disciple you are. In our Blue Cloud Peak, who do you think you are? How dare you call our eldest senior brother's name? A few Blue Cloud Peak disciples remarked cynically. Hearing the Blue Cloud Peak disciples' scorns from afar, Yin Shu picked up his pace and hurried to Yi Qingtang's side. Junior brother Yi. He originally intended for Yi Qingtang to apologize to Li Jingwen and those Blue Cloud Peak disciples symbolically, but he did not expect Yi Qingtang to go to Blue Cloud Peak personally. The scornful comments of those Blue Cloud Peak disciples were especially jarring, and he only hoped that Yi Qingtang could put an end to this matter quickly. This matter would be over if she just endured it for a moment. However, Yi Qingtang swept a cold glance at those incessant blue cloud peak disciples, and a glint passed her eyes. Tell Li Jingwen to get the hell out. The blue cloud peak disciples were stunned to hear what Yi Qingtang said. Even Yin Shu's face froze for a moment as well. What did she say? Tell Li Jingwen to get the hell out. Is she not here to apologize? Yin Shu sensed that there seemed to be something wrong, but before he could say anything, the blue cloud peak disciples exploded in anger. What a great Yi Chen! How dare you speak so wildly in our blue cloud peak? Your skin must be really itching. Why? Your admirable sky peak disciples are not beaten up enough by our eldest senior brother? You're here to ask for a beating? They had seen people who did not want their lives anymore, but not one who was so hurried to court death. This Yi Chun was actually so bold to provoke them on their blue cloud peak turf. Then, the blue cloud peak disciples' expression darkened immediately, and they immediately charged at Yi Qingtang with swords wielded in their hands. Chapter 750 Beaten Up 1. Seeing that there was something wrong with the situation, Yin Shu instinctively pulled Yi Qingtang back. He originally thought that she was here to apologize and did not think that this fellow would be so hot-tempered. She was clearly here to start a fight. However, before Yin Shu could pull Yi Qingtang, a snicker suddenly sounded. Everyone stop. When the blue cloud peak disciples heard that, they stopped whatever they were doing immediately and looked in the direction of the sound. Li Jingwen was actually standing there since some time ago. With hands behind him, his lips curled into a scoff as he looked straight at Yi Qingtang, who was standing not far away. I was wondering which reckless person dared to come to the blue cloud peak to cause a ruckus. Li Jingwen scoffed coldly. Yin Shu's heart sank immediately when he saw Li Jingwen. He originally wanted to bring Yi Qingtang away quickly. He did not think that he was still one step late, as Li Jingwen was already here. Yin Shu knew that there was trouble when he saw Li Jingwen. When Li Jingwen was an admirable sky peak, his attacks were already ruthless. Now they were on Blue Cloud Peak's turf, and Yi Qingtang was impudent. He was afraid that, senior brotherly. Yin Shu suppressed his worry and hurriedly greeted before Yi Qingtang said anything. Li Jingwen cast a nonchalant look at Yin Shu. When he caught sight of the bruise on Yin Shu's face, he smiled faintly. What is it? Junior brother Yin, was our interdisciple learning not enough? So you brought people here to continue seeking torture? Yin Shu's expression darkened. Based on skills, he was indeed not Li Jingwen's opponent, but no one would feel good to be publicly ridiculed by Li Jingwen. Yin Shu took a deep breath, straining himself to calm down the anger in him. Senior brother Li, you've misunderstood. Yi Chun just returned and knew that what he did previously was wrong. Thus, he is here to give you an explanation. He is Yi Chun. Li Jingwen raised a brow as he swept a look at the handsome young man behind Yin Shu. A trace of mockery flashed across his eyes as he said, Explanation? No matter how I see, he doesn't seem to be here to give me an explanation. A few Blue Cloud Peak disciples immediately gathered to Li Jingwen's side. Eldest senior brother, this Yi Chen is not here to apologize and is clearly here to cause trouble. He still shouted for you to get the hell out here. For me to get the hell out? Li Jingwen's expression darkened immediately, and he shot a sharp look straight at Yi Qingtang. Yin Shu hurriedly explained. Junior brother Yi is young. If he offended you, please don't take offense, senior brother Li. Junior brother Yin, I know that this Yi Chun is the disciple who your master just accepted. Since he has become a Falling Sky Valley disciple, he is no longer a kid. Does he not know how to say a single word? Do you have to take the trouble on his behalf? If he is this useless, what did perfected Xianxin accept him for? Li Jingwen chuckled and said right after, Oh, it was a slip of the tongue. This fellow could be apprenticed to perfected Xianxin, not because of his mouth or his skills, but because he offered a gift that satisfied perfected Xianxin. Yin Shu's expression turned ugly immediately. He could tolerate anything, but not any slander towards perfected Xianxin. Senior brother Li. Li Jingwen suddenly raised a hand and cut Yin Shu's sentence. Yi Chen, is it? You injured several Blue Cloud Peak disciples previously. If you publicly kowtow to them, admit your mistakes, and compensate them with some elixirs, this matter could be considered to be over. If you're unwilling, as a senior brother, I will not mind to teach you, since Admirable Sky Peak does not know how to teach their disciples. Chapter 751. Beaten Up 2. When Li Jingwen said that, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples had a complacent expression on their faces as they looked at Yi Qingtang and Yin Shu in disdain. Yin Shu never expected Li Jingwen to be so overboard. He was about to say something, but Yi Qingtang suddenly walked forward and shut Yin Shu up. Yi Qingtang's lips curled up, and she scoffed coldly while looking at the Li Jingwen with head held high. Are you all done? Who said I'm here today to apologize? Li Jingwen, if you want me to apologize, went against me first. When Yi Qingtang said that, all the Blue Cloud Peak disciples were completely dumbfounded. In the next second, everyone looked at the reckless Yi Qingtang unbelievably. What is she saying? Is she crazy? With her dilettantish skills, she still dares to yell at eldest senior brother? Li Jingwen was delighted. Yi Chen, you do talk big. Since you really don't know how to appreciate favors, there's no need for me to be polite with you anymore. Since you wish for us to learn from each other, I'll play with you then. Then, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples beside Li Jingwen retreated immediately and grinned as they looked at Yi Qingtang, who courted death. Yin Shu was completely dumbfounded. He did not think that Yi Qingtang would be so bold. Li Jingwen was the #1 disciple in Blue Cloud Peak. There were only a few people out of the tens of thousands of disciples in Falling Sky Valley who could win against Li Jingwen. Yin Shu wanted to persuade Yi Qingtang out of it, but she did not even intend on giving him a chance to speak. She immediately took a step forward and announced, "Make your move." Li Jingwen looked at Yi Qingtang with a raised brow. He had seen people who wanted to die, but not one who wanted to die so bad. She actually let him make the first move? Eldest senior brother, don't go easy on her. This fellow clearly has it coming. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples hooted, eager to see Yi Qingtang being beaten up by Li Jingwen. Li Jingwen did not spare any talk with Yi Qingtang and drew his sword out immediately. Suddenly, an overbearing sword aura was injected on his blade, and in just a moment, Yin Shu's heart rose up to his throat. Looking at the light blue sword aura on Li Jingwen's blade, Yin Shu was alarmed by the impending trouble. Li Jingwen actually executed the Cold Winter Sword aura, which the Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master created at his first move. The Cold Winter Sword aura was Blue Cloud Peak's Peak Master exquisite skill, which had an extremely shocking lethality. When injured by the sword aura, the cut would immediately freeze, and the bitter poison in the sword aura would subsequently enter the person's body. Li Jingwen had already mastered 70% of this Cold Winter Sword aura, and using it now was evident that he was not going to spare any mercy. Junior brother Yi, be careful, Yin Shu shrieked in alarm. The moment he spoke, Li Jingwen had already turned into a bolt of blue light, as though he became one with the Cold Winter Sword aura, and he dashed towards Yi Qingtang. The faint blue ray had a bone-piercing cold air, and the temperature in the air dropped. Yi Qingtang stood rooted to the ground, and a murderous expression flashed across her eyes as she looked at Li Jingwen, who rushed to her. Is that fellow dumbstruck from shock? The Blue Cloud Peak disciples could not help but snicker when they saw that Yi Qingtang did not move an inch. As long as Yi Qingtang was grazed by the Cold Winter Sword aura, she would definitely be injured by the bitter poison. This was simply a battle without any suspense. Chapter 752, Beaten Up 3. In the blink of an eye, the sword in Li Jingwen's hand was pierced right towards Yi Qingtang's chest. It was at this instant when everyone felt that Yi Qingtang would die, without a doubt. However, when the tip of Li Jingwen's blade was half a finger away from Yi Qingtang's chest, it suddenly stopped. Li Jingwen looked in shock at Yi Qingtang, who lifted a hand up since God knows when. That fair palm held on the sharp blade steadily and directly stopped that powerful charging stance. An expression of shock flashed across Li Jingwen's eyes. He could not even see clearly when Yi Qingtang raised her hand just now. Cold winter, sword, aura. Yi Qingtang watched the blue-colored sword aura slowly seep past her hand which held onto the sword. The next second, after Yi Qingtang finished her sentence, a golden flame suddenly started burning in her hands. In just a moment, that striking golden flame slowly spread to Li Jingwen's sword, and the faint blue-colored sword aura was swallowed by that flame almost instantly. The sword, which initially had a slight coldness, was, however, burnt by that golden flame. The heat directly transmitted to Li Jingwen's hand that wielded the sword, and the burning heat caused Li Jingwen's expression to change. Yi Qingtang looked up slowly at Li Jingwen, and the corners of her lips curled into a devilish smile. The approaching cold winter still can't beat the heat of a burning flame. What? Li Jingwen was taken aback. Yi Qingtang's smile deepened. Suddenly, she blew the golden flame up by multiple times, and it was as though the golden flame wanted to engulf everything in the surroundings. The blade she gripped was instantly burnt red by that golden flame. Under the high heat, Li Jingwen's right hand was burnt, and he violently released the sword handle. In the next second, the sword that Li Jingwen dropped down burnt until it melted, and Yi Qingtang's hands drops of red molten iron dripped near Yi Qingtang's feet and entered the soil, where smoke emerged. How can it be? The excited Blue Cloud Peak disciples were dumbfounded when they saw that the sword was completely burnt. The sword in Li Jingwen's hand was personally bestowed to him by Blue Cloud Peak's Peakmaster and was made with a superior grade meteoric iron. It could be said to be unbreakable and extremely durable. Yet now, that sword was burnt into a pool of molten iron. Astonishment was written in Li Jingwen's eyes as he looked down at his right hand, which held the sword just now. Although he did release his grip in time, his palm was still injured by that golden flame, and pain from the burns spread out in his palm. Blue Cloud Peak's top disciple is merely like that. Now, it's my turn to make a move. Yi Qingtang looked up, and the smile on her face was increasingly sinister. Li Jingwen was alarmed. For some reason, an intense uneasiness snowballed in his heart wildly. Before Li Jingwen returned to his senses, Yi Qingtang had already disappeared before everyone without a trace. Li Jingwen was alarmed and instinctively stirred up all the primordial qi in his body. However, all of this was a futile resist. Yi Qingtang's figure suddenly appeared behind Li Jingwen like a ghost. Chapter 753. Beaten up 4. Before Li Jingwen sensed her, Yi Qingtang suddenly lifted her hand, grabbed Li Jingwen by the collar, and hurled him away instantly. All Li Jingwen felt was a huge force at the back of his neck, and he simply had no room to resist. Yi Qingtang raised her leg and landed a powerful kick on Li Jingwen's lower back. In the next second, Li Jingwen was sent flying several meters away before hitting a tree trunk and crashing on the ground with a thud. All of this happened within a breath's time. Everyone in Blue Cloud Peak was stunned. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples widened their eyes in disbelief as they watched their eldest senior brother, who was unparalleled in their hearts, being beaten up without being able to retaliate. How? How can it be? Eldest senior brother. Why? Why is he? The Blue Cloud Peak disciples, who were still truculent and cocky initially, could not laugh anymore now as they looked at Li Jingwen, who was sprawled on the ground with their jaws dropped. Even Yin Shu was utterly dumbfounded. He had sparred with Li Jingwen before as well, and naturally knew how frightening Li Jingwen's skills were. However, currently, Li Jingwen could only be beaten up in Yi Qingtang's hands. Li Jingwen scrambled up. Yi Qingtang's light-looking kick almost broke his spine, and it was as if his entire body was falling apart. Looking at the suspecting gazes of his junior brothers in the surroundings, Li Jingwen's face darkened to an extreme. To think that his face was thrown in front of everyone because of Yi Qingtang despite his position at Blue Cloud Peak. Yi Chun, you have the guts. Li Jingwen clenched his fists suddenly, and a soaring aura suddenly spread around him. A powerful torrent-like spirit energy surged towards Li Jingwen wildly, and his skin seemed to be covered in a layer of blue light in an instant. Flying dragon inner chi. Yin Shu was alarmed to see the blue ray surrounding Li Jingwen. The flying dragon inner chi was one of Falling Sky Valley's many profound techniques with an extremely powerful attack ability. It could raise one's potential within a short period of time and was truly one of the most powerful killing moves. Yin Shu never expected Li Jingwen to have acquired the flying dragon inner chi. It was no wonder Li Jingwen's skills improved immensely over this period of time, since he cultivated this powerful cultivation technique in secret. Not only can the flying dragon inner chi increase one's strength and speed, but it could even allow one's defense to double. Presently, Li Jingwen was forced to unleash his flying dragon inner chi, making it evident that he would battle it out with Yi Qingtang until she was killed. Yi Qingtang looked at Li Jingwen, who could no longer restrain his anger and the ball of blue light indifferently. The smile on her face never faded a bit. "I want you dead," Li Jingwen shouted, and suddenly turned into a blinding blue light as he charged towards Yi Qingtang. Yi Qingtang looked down slightly, sweeping away the murderous intent in her eyes. A wild gust of wind lifted her long hair up, and Li Jingwen's aura inched closer rapidly. Right at the crucial moment, Yi Qingtang suddenly looked up, and she seemed to carelessly raise her hand that was dangling beside her. In the next second, however, her hand clutched on Li Jingwen's fist that he had put all his force in. "Don't disgrace yourself with your smattering cultivation technique." Chapter 754, Beaten Up 5. Li Jingwen opened his eyes wide in disbelief. He channeled all his flying dragon inner chi into his fist, and it was held easily by Yi Qingtang. No matter how much strength he put in, his fist could not get closer anymore. "Li Jingwen, that's all you have?" Yi Qingtang lifted her brows slightly. She smiled as she stared at Li Jingwen, whose face was pale. Yi Qingtang's hand that was grabbing Li Jingwen's fist suddenly rotated, and she snatched his wrist to pull him towards herself. Li Jingwen was pulled over. His strength was totally incomparable to Yi Qingtang's. The moment half of Li Jingwen's body was pulled over, Yi Qingtang raised the other hand and smashed onto his face. Li Jingwen flew out under the force of the punch. The originally handsome face was totally ruined under Yi Qingtang's punch. His skin was torn and bones broken. A few teeth that were stained with blood and a pool of blood spurted out from his mouth. Li Jingwen collapsed on the ground. His eyes were rolled up and blood filled his mouth. He appeared to be extremely confounded with a few missing teeth. "You're really too weak." Yi Qingtang's head tilted as she looked at Li Jingwen, who collapsed on the ground and was unable to get up. Her sight then landed on the other Blue Cloud Peak disciples who were shocked. The previously arrogant Blue Cloud Peak disciples were scared by Yi Qingtang's one glance and stepped back. Their faces were all pale. At that moment, Yi Qingtang was like a monster in their eyes. The strongest disciple in Blue Cloud Peak was beaten by Yi Qingtang. How would they dare to be arrogant anymore? Who else needs my apology? Yi Qingtang raised a brow. No one of the Blue Cloud Peak dared to make any sound, as they were scared that they would face the same consequences as Li Jingwen. Furthermore, their abilities were lower than Li Jingwen. They were much weaker than him. Listen up. If anyone who's still not satisfied, come and find me. If I know anyone that still bullies my senior and junior brothers of the Admirable Sky Peak, no matter what's the excuse, they'll beat you to death," Yi Qingtang said coldly. The Blue Cloud Peak disciples were all frightened. No one dared to say anything. Yi Qingtang's intention was reached, and she was not willing to stay at the Blue Cloud Peak anymore. She turned and said towards Yin Shu, who was still in shock, "Senior brother Yin, things are settled here. Let's head back." She turned and left after finishing her words. Yin Shu was shocked for a while before he regained his consciousness. He turned to look at Li Jingwen instinctively and felt numb. Yin Shu's mind was complicated as he stared at Yi Qingtang's back view. Junior brother Yi was more terrifying than he imagined. Yin Shu was slightly worried in his heart. Junior brother Yi was powerful, but how would this incident come to a close now that he beat Li Jingwen? Yin Shu shook his head and dispersed all his thoughts. He then followed up. After Yi Qingtang and Yin Shu left, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples then realized the situation and sent the unconscious Li Jingwen to the doctor. Chapter 755, Finding Troubles on the Door, 1. After leaving the Blue Cloud Peak, Yi Qingtang headed back to her room, and Yin Shu returned to the Admirable Sky Peak. Many disciples were curious about whether Yi Qingtang apologized. However, Yin Shu did not have the mood to talk about that at all. Yi Qingtang went to apologize? She almost beat Li Jingwen to death. Yin Shu felt that his anger was relieved when Yi Qingtang beat Li Jingwen up, but he was very worried. He then wanted to tell the perfected Xianxian about that. However, before Yin Shu reported to the perfected Xianxian, the Blue Cloud Peak Master came over. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples were shocked when they saw the Blue Cloud Peak Master appear at the Admirable Sky Peak. The chief disciple of the Blue Cloud Peak, Li Jingwen, just came to find trouble in the morning. How come the Peak Master of the Blue Cloud Peak came over personally as well in the afternoon? How serious was the trouble that Yi Qingtang made? Did she not apologize to the Blue Cloud Peak? How come the Peak Master of the Blue Cloud Peak was here as well? Yin Shu felt his head was going to explode when he saw the Peak Master of the Blue Cloud Peak. Perfected Xianxian came over as he heard the news. He saw the Blue Cloud Peak Master's face was clouded. The Peak Master was standing in the crowd of Admirable Sky Peak disciples along with a few Blue Cloud Peak disciples. Valley Master. The Blue Cloud Peak Master was above 50 years old with gray temples. His level of cultivation made him appear mighty. When he saw the perfected Xianxian, he just addressed him without any emotion. There was no trace of respect at all. Perfected Xianxian did not know what had happened, and he felt curious. When he was still the Admirable Sky Peak Master, he was not in good terms with the Blue Cloud Peak Master. It was rare for them to meet after he became the Valley Master. How come today he would come to the Admirable Sky Peak personally? May I know what requires you to come here personally today? Perfected Xianxian asked. The Blue Cloud Peak Master sneered. I came not for other things, but your new disciple, Valley Master. You're talking about Yi Chun? Perfected Xianxian was slightly stunned. He took Yi Qingtang in by exception, but he did not have time to guide him on his cultivation as he was occupied for the past few days. He planned to take some time to guide him. Yet, unexpectedly, how come Yi Qingtang was connected to the Blue Cloud Peak Master? That's him. The Blue Cloud Peak Master scoffed. What did he do? Perfected Zuanshan's face was calm. What did he do? Why don't you ask himself? The Blue Cloud Peak Master's face was more unpleasant as he mentioned Yi Qingtang. Chapter 756, Finding Troubles on the Door, 2. When the Blue Cloud Peak disciple finished his words, all the Admirable Sky Peak disciples who were present were stunned. They only knew about the first half of the content, he said. However, Yi Qingtang beat Li Jingwen? When did that happen? The Admirable Sky Peak disciples were all shocked, but they did not dare to say anything. They could only pay attention to their conversations. Yi Chun beat and injured Li Jingwen. Perfected Xianxian was slightly shocked. He was aware of Li Jingwen's ability since he was the chief disciple of Blue Cloud Peak. However, Yi Qingtang had only entered the valley for a few days. How could she injure Li Jingwen? The Blue Cloud Peak Master sneered. How could it be fake? Valley Master, your disciple is very cruel. Li Jingwen is still in a coma and has multiple injuries. If you do not believe me, you can check it out yourself. Perfected Xianxian frowned and looked towards Yin Shu. Yin Shu, is that true? Yin Shu's name was called, and he had to reply. Yes, but Valley Master, you disciple confirmed that as well. What else do you have to say? The Blue Cloud Peak Master did not even give Yin Shu any time to explain. Perfected Zuanshan's face clouded and said towards Yin Shu, ask Yi Chun to come here now. He then looked at the Blue Cloud Peak Master and said, Yi Chun is my disciple. If he really injured his senior brother, he'll punish him heavily. I know that you're always fair, Valley Master. I hope you will settle this incident impartially as well, the Blue Cloud Peak Master said. Of course. Perfected Zuanshan's face was expressionless. Everyone then waited for Yi Qingtang's arrival. The Admirable Sky Peak disciples all had a complex state of mind. They thought that Yi Qingtang was a timid person that only knew how to cause trouble. However, she had the nerve to go to the Blue Cloud Peak and beat Li Jingwen. Though they all knew Perfected Zuanshan's concern, they all were enraged by Li Jingwen's behaviors today. Now, after knowing that Yi Qingtang beat Li Jingwen heavily, everyone felt relieved, especially those who were injured by Li Jingwen. Soon, Yanshu led Yi Qingtang over. Yi Qingtang walked over calmly under everyone's gaze. When she raised her eyes, she saw the Blue Cloud Peak Master, whose face was clouded, and Perfected Xianshun, whose face was slightly darkened. Yanshu told her that the Blue Cloud Peak Master was here to find trouble with her on their way here. She was clear of the situation now. Master, Yi Qingtang kept her thoughts and bowed to Perfected Xianshun. Perfected Xianshun stared at Yi Qingtang, who had become his disciple for only a while now, and nodded. Yi Chun, have you been to the Blue Cloud Peak today? He asked. Though Yi Qingtang became his disciple for a while only, he was still his own disciple. He would not stand at the side. If he really made a mistake, he would punish him heavily. However, if the Blue Cloud Peak Master fabricated the truth, he would not allow that to happen. Yes, Yi Qingtang replied without any hesitation. Did you fight against Li Jingwen and injure him? Perfected Xianshun felt that based on Yi Qingtang's age, his ability should not be above Li Jingwen's. That's true. Yi Qingtang nodded. Perfected Zuanshan's sight was more serious now. The Blue Cloud Peak Master heard that Yi Qingtang confessed and scoffed immediately. Valley Master, things are clear now. Please settle it fairly and punish Yi Chun to relieve our anger. Chapter 757, So It's My Fault. 1. Perfected Xianshun sighed. When he was about to say something, Yi Qingtang suddenly spoke. I have no idea what mistake I made that need to be punished by Master, Peak Master. The Blue Cloud Peak Master did not expect that Yi Qingtang would suddenly change her words after confessing the truth. What mistake did you make? Isn't it a mistake that you injured your senior brother? Do you think that you can do anything you want when your master is the Valley Master now? He scoffed. The Blue Cloud Peak Master seemed to be speaking to Yi Qingtang, but he was hinting at Perfected Xianshun. Yi Qingtang looked at how sarcastic was the Blue Cloud Peak Master and was very confused. I can't take the blame of hurting my senior brother. I was just practicing with senior brother Li. When did I purposely hurt him? I just entered the valley, and I'm not aware of all the rules here. Is competition among disciples forbidden here? Of course it's allowed here. However, were you really practicing? Li Jingwen is still in a coma now. How dare you say it's a practice when you beat him heavily? The Blue Cloud Peak Master heavily. Isn't that how it's supposed to be? It's the same when senior brother Li came to the Admirable Sky Peak today with others and competed with my senior and junior brothers. My junior brother, Sheng, almost lost his life under senior brother Li's sword. He is still in a coma now, Yi Qingtang said. I thought that senior brother Li is an old disciple here and the chief disciple of the Blue Cloud Peak. Of course, he should know the rules here. He did not have any concerns when he competed with our disciples, and I thought so as well. Yi Qingtang continued. What did you say? When did Li Jingwen come to the Admirable Sky Peak? The Blue Cloud Peak Master was stunned. A trace of a cunning smile flashed across Yi Qingtang's eyes. She knew that those from the Blue Cloud Peak did not have the nerve to tell the truth to their Peak Master. I was not around when senior brother Li was here. However, most of the Admirable Sky Peak disciples were here, and they can prove that. If you do not believe me, you can visit the doctor now. My junior brother Sheng is still lying there now. The Blue Cloud Peak Master scanned through the Blue Cloud Peak disciples he brought when he saw that Yi Qingtang's sight was so determined. He immediately knew that they were hiding something when he saw their faces. The blue cloud peak master's face clouded, and he was speechless at the moment. Li Jingwen injured the admirable sky peak disciple first. If he blamed Yi Qingtang for the same thing, then Li Jingwen was the one who made the mistake first. Furthermore, when I went over to look for senior brother Li, he said in front of everyone that he was practicing with me. Senior brother Yin and all the Blue Cloud Peak disciples who were present could prove that. Yi Qingtang added, the Blue Cloud Peak disciples' faces were unpleasant. Li Jingwen really did say that before. The Blue Cloud Peak master's expression turned ugly. I did not expect that senior brother Li would be so weak. I thought that as the chief disciple of the Blue Cloud Peak, he must be very powerful, so I did not hold back. However, I didn't know that he was so weak. If I knew that earlier, I would not use my full strength. Yi Qingtang stared at the Blue Cloud Peak master with an innocent expression. The Blue Cloud Peak master almost fainted upon hearing her words. His chief disciple was weak? Too weak for her to compete with. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.